What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ. This is Out of Bounds DFS, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the NBA Monkey Knife Fight board today. They got 3 different interesting games that you can play over there. If you're a single player daily fantasy sports fan, gotta check them out. And if you haven't checked them out before, I'll leave a link down in the description of this video where you guys can go and sign up and play Monkey Knife Fight. And they're doing 100% deposit match right now. But the 3 games in question are the first you see here, more or less, where you're picking the over or under on a player's fantasy score. And then they also have rapid fire, which pits players against each other head to head. So like Joel Embiid versus Nikola Vucevic, who's going to score more fantasy points? You have to choose between those. And then finally, they've got Stat Shootout. Stat Shootout basically gives you a cumulative fantasy points pool, a big number, in this case 155, 163, or 170, and you get to draft 3 players from tonight's NBA slate and try to go over that projection to win some money. So if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. Here on Out of Bounds DFS, we talk everything single player daily fantasy sports related. So if you play on Prize Picks, if you play on Monkey Knife Fight, if you play somewhere else like Thrive Fantasy, this might be the channel for you. Definitely hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications as I release videos every single day, and I wouldn't want you to miss any of them. Thumbs up, like the video, excuse me, and then drop a comment below and share this video with the entire world. And let's just go ahead and get right into Monkey Knife Fight, MKF. Very interesting site. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. I'm glad that I decided to start making videos covering them. So the first guy on the board is Joel Embiid, Philadelphia 76ers center. They're taking on the Portland Trailblazers tonight. Joel Embiid on Monkey Knife Fight is projected for 52.5 fantasy points. I love this matchup for Joel Embiid. I do wonder if this game has the potential to stay close. Philadelphia, typically a much better team than Portland, but if we go over to Roto Grinders, which is already preloaded with FanDuel fantasy projections, and the reason I use FanDuel is because FanDuel scoring is just like Monkey Knife Fight scoring when it comes to NBA daily fantasy. So it's a 1-to-1, apples to apples. Great way to compare fantasy projections from site to site. But Joel Embiid projected for 53.96 fantasy points. If we round that up, we can call it 54. So that would put him quite a bit over his projection of 52.5. I do like the over for Joel Embiid tonight. I agree with Roto Grinders. And the reason is because last time he played Portland, he went off. The only thing that really slowed him down was his knee kind of buckled or bent awkwardly out on the court. He left briefly in the first quarter, ended up coming back and had a monster game against Portland. Now, what hurt Embiid was there was a second half blowout. But tonight, the game totals here, Portland 112 at home, Philadelphia 117.5. They're the road favorites in this game, so you're looking at a 5.5 point spread. I think it stays close enough and remains competitive enough for Joel Embiid to exceed this 52.5 point option here. So I'm going to take the more on Joel Embiid. Nikola Vucevic, 50.5 fantasy points. They take on the Golden State Warriors tonight. This is going to be one that's going to be tough for me, guys. And the reason that I say that is because it's projecting to be a one-sided game. It looks like Golden State is a big favorite here, 115 to Orlando's 107. So Golden State, the home favorite. So I think it's going to be hard for Nikola Vucevic to reach his projection on MKF tonight. So 48.17 is his projection on Roto Grinders. I tend to agree. I don't think this is a 50-point night for Nikola Vucevic, so I'm taking the less on him. Now, Steph Curry taking on the Orlando Magic tonight. And the other side of this game here, 50.5 points. This is another one where I think that going under on Steph Curry might be the way to go in full game formats. I do expect this one to get out of hand at some point. Orlando, which is my favorite team, my home team, they've had a hard time keeping up with teams this year and have been blown out quite a bit. Now, if we round this up, we can call it a nice and clean 47 fantasy points for Steph Curry, which would put him well under his projection of 50.5. So let's go less on Steph Curry and hope that this game truly does get away from Orlando and blows out. Now, the next guy on the board is Damian Lillard, point guard for the Portland Trail Blazers. They're taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Of course, we've already talked Joel Embiid. The Portland side of this game, Dame Lillard, 49.5. Guys, if this game stays close, I do like going over on Damian Lillard. He is, pretty much their #1 scoring option. There's no CJ McCollum, no Yusuf Nurkic in this lineup. So it's up to Dame Lillard to take on more of the scoring load and more of the passing and everything else. His usage and fantasy points per minute should go up here without any of his supporting cast. So I think this game does stay close for long enough that we can take the over or the more on Damian Lillard in the 49.5 fantasy points. The next guy on the board is Jason Tatum, the forward for the Boston Celtics. His projection is 45.5 points. They're taking on the Toronto Raptors, so kind of a tough matchup here. He's probably going to be matched up against Pascal Siakam, one of the better players in terms of defenders at the forward position. But if we go and find Jason Tatum here on Roto Grinders, look at his projection. It's at 43.87 points. Talked about the matchup here. This is going to be a 22 ranked Toronto Raptors defense, which means a tough matchup is in store for Jason Tatum. But looking at the game totals, Boston 112, they're the home favorite. Toronto 108.5. So they've got him at 43.87. Even if we round it up and call it 44, I still think that that's an under on Jason Tatum. So we're going to take the less on this guy. On the next guy, though, we've got Jimmy Butler, Miami Heat swingman. They're taking on the Houston Rockets tonight. He's got a projection on MKF of 44.5 fantasy points. So let's head over to Roto Grinders and take a look at his projection there. Well, they've got him at 44.97. So if we round it up and we call it 45, that would put him slightly over this 44.5 fantasy point projection. But this is going to be probably the guy that will make or break this 8 pick that we're trying to land. By the way, if you get all 8 picks right, guys, you get 100 times whatever your entry fee is. So tremendous, tremendous payout. What a prize that would be if I could possibly get these all right. But back to Jimmy Butler, this one's going to be a difficult one for me. So 44.97, we round it up, we call it 45. Looking at the game totals here, this isn't a game that's going to have a ton of real life points scored by either team. They're looking to combine for about 214, 215 real life points. So kind of on the lower end. I usually like to target overs on games where guys or teams rather are expected to score combined 230 points or more. So makes it a little tricky for me to trust taking the over on Jimmy Butler. So in this case, in a close call here, I'm going to take the less on Jimmy Butler and hope for the best. Now, his teammate, Bam Adebayo, also taking on the Houston Rockets, of course. He's projected for 42.5 points. So let's take a look at Bam. They've got him also at 42.56 points over on Roto Grinders. So they're right there in line with Monkey Knife Fight, giving us a difficult, tough decision here. But let's see if maybe we could look at his recent game logs and see what Bam's been up to in his recent days. 38.2, so that'd be an under. Here's an over or a more, 49.7, 39.3, 45.2, and a 44.8. So that projection tonight of 42.5, he's exceeded it in 1, 2, 3 of his last 5 games. So pretty good there. Pretty good success rate of him going over. You know what? We chose the under on Jimmy Butler or the less on Jimmy Butler. I think in this case, let's hope that it's more of a Bam Adebayo night. We're going to take the more and go over 42.5. And the last guy we got to talk about is Ben Simmons, the teammate of Joel Embiid, the point guard for the Philadelphia 76ers as he faces Portland tonight. They got Ben Simmons listed at 41.5 or 41.5 fantasy points, which would put him slightly under here versus Portland. If we look at his recent game logs, how many times has he went over this projection tonight in his last 5? Well, once, twice, just twice in his last 5. So my hunch and looking at the projections over on Roto Grinders is to take the less on Ben Simmons. So Once you've got your 8 pick all figured out and you've chosen if the guys are going to go more or less on their fantasy projection, then you come down here and you lock in how much you're willing to buy in for. In this case, I'm a little light guy, so I'm going to put in $5, hit submit, and we will hopefully, oh, the game is no longer active. What the heck? Well, there goes that. Maybe they're changing the players out on the board. But anyway, that's how you play that one. Let's talk about the next one, though, rapid fire. Rapid fire, again, it puts players from tonight's NBA slate head-to-head, and in some cases, you'll see that these players will get a little bit of a bonus on their fantasy point totals for the night. So if Nikola Vucevic finishes with 50 points, well, he's got a 2.5 point fantasy bonus, which would put him at 52.5. So you got to factor that little number in when you're choosing head-to-heads here. But looking at Embiid versus Vucevic, this will be real quick here. We'll head over to Roto Grinders, and as you can see, Joel Embiid projected for about 54 points, Vucevic projected for about 48 points, and if we take away if we add on the 2.5 points to Vucevic, that still puts him under Embiid. I think Embiid has a much friendlier matchup, much more upside tonight, so I would stick with Embiid here. And we got another good matchup here of Steph Curry versus Damian Lillard. Battle of two very good point guards, but if we filter out all positions and just look at point guard, we got Dame at 49.96. Let's round it up and call it 50 versus Steph Curry at 47. I think in a full game format, going Damian Lillard makes more sense here. I think he'll end up outscoring Stephen Curry in this game. The next one puts Jason Tatum against Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler is getting a 1.5 point fantasy bonus here, so that's going to help Jimmy Butler's case. Let's take a look and see where they have both of these guys. Jimmy Butler, of course, we talked about earlier. He's at 45, so let's call it 45 and add on the extra 1.5 points. We can expect maybe about 46.5 points for Jimmy Butler versus Jason Tatum, who is projected at, even if we round up, call it 44. I think I got to go Jimmy Butler with this one. That one looks to make more sense. Now, in the next head-to-head, we've got Bam Adebayo versus Ben Simmons, and Bam is expected to get a half-point bonus on whatever he finishes the night with in terms of fantasy points. So back to Roto Grinders we go to take a look at the projections for Adebayo. I got him at 42.5. So at 42.5, we add another half-point bonus onto that. We call it 43. That gives him 43 versus Ben Simmons, who's projected at 41.5. So this one's kind of close here, but I'm taking the Bam Adebayo pick. I think he outscores Ben Simmons tonight. And then finally, you've got Domantas Sabonis, the power forward for the Indiana Pacers, taking on the Pistons versus Fred VanVleet, guard for the Toronto Raptors, as they take on Boston tonight. Now, VanVleet's getting a 2.5 point fantasy bonus, so let's see where that puts him once you factor that bonus in. So VanVleet's at 39.25. Let's just round it down. We'll call it 39. But then we've got to add in the bonus of 2.5 points, so that puts him up at 41.5. 41.5 for VanVleet. They've got Sabonis at 43.79. Of course, VanVleet, he struggled last night, which burned some of us who play over on the other site, prizepicks. But in this case, it looks like Sabonis is going to be the way to go here. So we'll choose Domantas Sabonis, and then you would just simply lock in your buy-in amount anywhere from $2 up to $100. And if you get all of these right, you get 20 times your buy-in. So pretty cool game there. That's rapid fire tonight on MKF. Now, finally, the last game they have here is called Stat Shootout. This one in particular is the Fantasy Challenge mode. Fantasy Challenge, it operates off of fantasy points. So what we have to do here is decide if we want to go for 155.5 points, 163.5 points, or 170.5 points. And once we've decided that, we've got to select 3 players that we think have enough upside or enough of a ceiling tonight that can go over whatever score we choose here. So I'm going to go big or go home and hope for a big night here from the 3 guys I'll pick. So 170.5. So let's head back over to Roto Grinders real quick. We'll take a look at all positions and see who the highest projected scores are for tonight. Well, Joel Embiid is up there. Damian Lillard's up there. Nikola Vucevic is up there. Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum. So we've got some big names up here on the board. Now, what is going to factor in my decision is games that have high real-life totals. So I want teams that are projected to score a ton of points. And I want games that are not going to be blowouts, because if they're blowouts, then that's probably a risk for my superstar to get benched early, which means he'll fall way short of what I need him to do for me. So one of the games that I'm looking at here is this Philadelphia and Portland game. Very high total. Actually, the looks like the highest total, just about the highest total, tied for the highest total on the board. So I like the potential there. The spread's not too bad to make me not pick anybody from there. So immediately that leads me to Joel Embiid and Damian Lillard. We'll start our selection off there. And let's head back over and find maybe another guy who's in a high total game that could potentially go off tonight. Got Golden State at 115. I like the total there, but the blowout is kind of worrisome. So Steph Curry for me is, I'm going to leave him out for tonight. You've got Miami and Houston, not the highest in terms of total, but a very good spread. So maybe taking a star from there makes some sense. Toronto versus Boston. You got 108.5 for Toronto, 112 for Boston. So pretty decent totals in that game, and looks like it's going to stay fairly close. So why don't we go and we take the highest guy from the Boston Celtics, which tonight is Jason Tatum. So let's make Jason Tatum our third pick. Maybe Jason Tatum has a ceiling type performance where he just goes completely ballistic. That's what we're going to need him to do. At 170.5 points, guys, I'm going to pull up the calculator right here and give you kind of a quick average of what that would come out to. So 170.5, and then we're going to divide that by 3. You're going to need an average of about 56.83 points from each of these guys. So heading back over to Roto Grinders real quick, we'll filter back to all positions and take a look at the guys that we selected here. Pull my calculator back up. So we went with Joel Embiid at 53.96, plus Damian Lillard at 49.96, plus Jason Tatum at 43.87, and that equals 147.79. So not too bad here. These guys do have the potential, I think, to possibly have a ceiling type performance here based on the game totals, based on the spread. So those would be the 3 guys that I would pick. And then, of course, you can wager anywhere from $2 to $250. And if you get them all 3 right, or if you exceed the 170.5 point goal, you win 3 times your money. So it's a way to triple up if you can surpass 170.5. But that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed the comment. If you did, hit the like button. It lets me know that you're enjoying what I'm doing here, talking Monkey Knife Fight, a different way to play single player daily fantasy sports. And again, if you're interested in trying it out, I'll leave a link in the description of this video, and you can go and sign up tonight and get 100% bonus match. So if you put in 50 bucks, they're going to match your 50 bucks and you'll have $100 to play with tonight. But that's going to do it for me. This has been CJ for Out of Bounds DFS. Good luck tonight, and we'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.